the words obviously matter that you use, how you talk to people, the psychology behind it. Those are all important parts of the sales process.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. Nothing you hear on this show is legal or investment advice, nor is it an offer to buy or sell securities. Always consult your own legal and financial professionals before making decisions.
Welcome back to another episode of the Capital Flow Podcast. If you're looking to raise $100,000 or more from a single investor, this is the show for you. I've got a great friend and guest today, Drew Norton, and his specialty is in sales. So during this show, all of our guests will provide value in what I would consider one of the three pillars of capital raising. And that's the awareness or the marketing side of things, the nurturing side, building that relationship to where somebody feels comfortable writing you a $100,000 check, or in the sales. So when somebody develops that trust, how are you converting them to actually sign that check? So really excited, Drew. Appreciate you coming in today.
Yeah, excited to be here, Dallon, and grateful for the chance to come talk to your listeners.
So for those that have never heard of Drew before, he's our internal sales coach. And so he helps us and our team just learn how to have better conversations with people. And one thing that really resonated with me, Drew, about you and your experience is just how we both approach sales. Now, for me, it's been an evolving experience. And I think for most people, when they hear the word sales, they get this they get this ick taste in their mouth. And I know that's probably where you spend a good chunk of your time with anyone that you work with. So I definitely want to get into that. But before we do, share with our listeners a little bit about your sales journey and why you chose sales and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, I grew up in southeastern Arizona, a little tiny town called Duncan, a couple thousand people in the town. Grew up working on the farms, the dairies, manual labor, and it was actually great. Like, it was great to kind of have that work ethic, and I'm grateful for that background. And the longer, I just remember working different jobs, and over time getting this feeling that I could be working twice as hard as the guy next to me and we make the same. Or if I'm lucky, maybe I get a 10-cent raise. And so I first got introduced to sales in college, and what excited me about it was this idea that, hey, the harder I work, the more I can make. And so just going from an hourly job or an hourly position to this idea that, hey, I'm going to get paid what I'm worth was fun and was exciting. And so that's kind of what got me into that. I did door-to-door sales in college.
Was this going back, because I think that's an incredible example. You realize that you could work twice as hard as the person next to you and you're getting paid the same wage.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're new to that company or that industry, so that person's more experienced. I'll just say they've been there longer, so they might be getting paid more even though you're doing twice the amount of work.
Right.
So was this something that was taught to you? Was this something, or was this just an experience that you developed and realized on your own?
I think looking back, I've been in sales over a decade now, and I think it just kind of came over time. So I think it started with this idea that I saw others go out and have sales jobs and do sales, and I thought, well, if those guys can, I think I could do this. I think I could do well at this. And so I don't remember having this aha moment that, hey, I should get into sales, but I remember just having this realization, I think, over time that, hey, this is cool. Up until that point, I just thought it was you put in X amount of time and you get paid Y. And that was my relationship with money. So the idea that, hey, if I get better at what I'm doing, I can make more, that was kind of exciting and what got me into it back when I was in college.
That's awesome. So give us a 2-minute summary of your sales journey and really what got you to where you are today. Because, I mean, you've been an incredible asset to our team, and we've had some of our users at Capitalist Pro that have also engaged you as well,
right,
for your sales techniques and trainings. So yeah, share with our listener. Give us like the 2 minute. Like, how did Drew get to where he is today?
So it started with door to door. So I went out and sold satellite TV. Then I sold pest control. I did that while I was going through school. And how I was introduced to sales was go work hard for 3 or 4 months. You make enough money where you don't have to work the rest of the year. Luckily in college, it's not, you don't need that much, but also the idea that I could make $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in a summer as a college kid was like, wow, this is amazing. Then I decided after doing that a few summers, I was going to get a real job. So I got into the insurance industry, managed and ran a couple insurance agencies for several years. And eventually I got back into the door-to-door space, doing solar, led and ran some pretty big sales teams, had a lot of success there, both personally and with my team. And I'm trying to think if I've missed anything along the way. I've eventually just realized that what I really loved, as much as I love sales, I really loved developing people, and had some just awesome experiences with some of the guys I'd worked with, that I'd recruited, that I'd trained, saw how sales changed their lives, and wanted to do more of that, and just really felt called to helping people get better at that.
I love that, and I really want to get into developing people, like you said, but really into this idea of sales. And when I look back in my journey, I came from the medical field, not even in sales, and it was when I became an entrepreneur that I realized how critical sales is, and not even how critical it is, but literally how it's part of everyday life. And even if you wouldn't consider yourself in a sales position, we are selling every single day of our lives. And I don't even think most people hear it or know about it or realize it. And so let's start there, because I mentioned this at the start of the show. When people often hear the word sales, they get this, like, they get a bad thought, they get a bad idea. I just hosted a workshop, and I was about 30 minutes into it, and sales came up. And so I was talking about sales, and I asked them, I was like, what are your initial thoughts of sales? And people said cringy. They said like icky, like used car salesman, like all those negative connotations. And then I asked them, I said, be honest, for the last 25, 30 minutes, yes or no question, do you feel like I've been selling you? And the chat box was just no, 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 no. And I said, the reality is, I have been.
Yeah.
I've been selling you for the last 25 and 30 minutes, but the fact that you're telling me you didn't feel like it shows you how this process can and should be. So in your experience, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
What does a person need to go through? What did you have to go through to work through that initial limiting belief of really what sales is?
Yeah, and it's probably different for different people. So I'll talk about my experience first and then some of what I've seen. So for me, I've always been very much directed by just my moral compass. And so for me, it was always important that I do things the right way, that I be honest. You know, I remember my dad, his only advice when I got into sales was just don't sell your soul.
Don't disappoint the family.
Right. Like, so my parents were very supportive, and it was just like, hey, you just keep your integrity. And so for me, it was like my limiting belief around sales was actually how other people viewed me. I wouldn't tell people I was in sales. I was afraid to admit it. I felt maybe even some, I don't know if shame's the right word, but it's like I realized pretty quick in doing sales how people view sales or salesmen. And so then I just kind of got this, and I didn't realize this till actually this last couple of years, that I just shied away from, hey, I do sales or I'm involved in sales somehow. And so it might be calling myself a consultant, or I'm a advisor, or I'm a, like, anything but the word sales. And it's like, no, that's what you're doing. And where now I'm proud of it. And I think getting over that was understanding what I'm really doing for people. And so I believe that selling can create freedom for yourself and for others, that selling is really just helping people get what they want. That back to that, what you said earlier, Dallon, that every part of life is sales, or at least especially in business, at least, that selling can actually be a form of leadership. Like you're helping people get things they wouldn't be able to get on their own if they didn't have you. And really in sales, the reason why salespeople are paid and often can be paid well is they help people make decisions, and people don't want to make decisions. And if you're a good salesperson, you help people get off the fence and say yes or no.
And I wanna highlight here, you're saying serve, help, like these are terms that most people don't associate with sales. And there's a lot of bad salespeople out there that give people like you and I a bad rap because they're not trying to help people. They're trying to force people to do something. They're trying to coerce people. They're trying to fabricate scarcity and urgency and all these things, when in reality, that may not be what that person needs.
Right.
And I think what you and I have found, and you'll probably speak a little bit more about this, a lot of people might have an idea of what they want or what they need, but oftentimes they need help getting to that decision. They need that guidance, or maybe they don't realize how much they truly need something. So what I've experienced is good salespeople are really like tour guides, if you will. And they listen, they talk to that potential client, and they understand what their needs are, and then they help guide them to a solution. They're not forcing anything upon them. They're asking. They're in a way, they're kind of like therapists.
Yeah.
And some people might disagree with me there, but good salespeople are asking you questions and getting you to an answer that could ideally benefit you or your business or your company.
Yeah. And what kind of comes to mind as you say that is, I think through my sales journey, when I had the most success, it was when I was detached from the results, where I've recognized if I'm going into a conversation with somebody and I feel like, oh, I need to get this sale, it usually doesn't go well.
You get that commission breath.
Right. Yeah. You get that. They feel it. You feel it. Where when you can go out and work and serve and just be confident in what you have and what you have to offer, and realize and recognize, hey, you know what? If it's not for this person, it's going to be for the next. It just seems like it opens up so many more opportunities. And when you can approach a sales conversation free, it helps the prospect or the client or the potential investor feel free as well.
Because when you do that, you're coming in with their interest in mind. If you come in saying, I have to get this sale, it's your agenda, it's your itinerary, it's not theirs. And that negatively affects how that conversation goes. You mentioned a few minutes ago that sales is a form of leadership. And when you first shared this thought, this concept, this idea with me, I never thought of it in that way. So I want to spend a couple minutes here, because that's your primary focus, right? Your company, the everyday leader, you're there leaning into people, helping them get to that next level. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you say sales is a form of leadership, invite us into your philosophy around that.
Yeah. Some of it came from, I used to be partnered with a company called the Possibility Co. Chris Smith. They taught a course called Selling as a Leader. And I think I don't think that's the first time that idea was introduced, but I think it was solidified for me there. And one of my favorite books I read a couple years prior was a book called The Go-Giver. So
one of my
yeah,
favorites.
If you have negative beliefs about sales, that's a great book to go. If you have some negative limitations or thoughts about it, it would be a good book to start in. And I'm going to miss the rules. I'm not going to be able to remember them off the top of my head. But some of the philosophies of that book is, your value is based on how many people you serve and how well you can serve them. And it really is a book about just going out and giving value to other people. And really, I think what a leader does is a leader helps you get the things you want. A leader helps you go somewhere you couldn't go before. A leader helps you see something maybe you didn't recognize before. And a salesperson does all those same things. And so that's where this connection has really been solidified for me, that selling and leadership go hand in hand. And so the everyday sales leader, that's our podcast and our brand around just helping people live like leaders every day. And then for me, I want to be known as the everyday sales leader. I want to just bring that that correlation together for people and help people say, hey, selling, I had a client I worked with that as we worked through some of his limitations, he came up with the affirmation that, hey, selling is noble. And it's like how much would it change your conversations if you went in thinking, hey, I'm going to really help and serve this person, instead of thinking, oh, I'm bothering another person again.
It's interesting how when you think about career choices and what lies ahead of you, most of us, I would say, were brought up in a home where you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, you get a degree. And a lot of these white collar jobs, physicians, attorneys, all that stuff is really looked up to. And these, what I would consider more blue collar certification type jobs were frowned upon. That was the world I grew up in.
Yeah.
Those blue collar workers are making more than a lot of these white collar workers, especially considering all the debt and everything that they coupled onto that. But it's interesting because when you think about sales and that affirmation, like sales it's actually a noble thing, a noble career. That's a reality, and it can be. And what's interesting is when you consider like attorneys, right? Attorneys they can very easily be looked up on. It's like, hey, they passed the bar, they went to school. Same thing with physicians.
Hey, Dallon here. We'll get right back to the show in less than 60 seconds, but I wanted to take a moment to share something that could be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost capital: your email deliverability. If your open rates aren't at least between 40 and 60%, I'm going to guess you don't have a content problem. You most likely have a deliverability problem. That means your emails are landing in spam, meaning potential investors are not being nurtured effectively, or even worse, never even having a chance to see your investment offering. But it's okay. We're going to help you fix that. My team put together a free guide with 10 best practices to ensure you're avoiding spam and actually hitting your leads' inbox. Your email reputation is like a credit score. It can take years to build and moments to ruin it. So don't make the same mistakes we did. The resource is short, tactical, and will get your emails back where they belong, the inbox. So go ahead, click on the link in the description or show notes below to access the checklist so you can avoid capital slipping through your fingers because of a simple fix. Click the link below, and now let's get back to the show.
There's a lot of shady attorneys out there, but why don't attorneys, when somebody says, hey, I want to be a lawyer, they're like, oh, good job, good for you. Why don't they get the bad rap that when somebody says, hey, I want to be a salesperson, they're like, ooh, like, why do you think that is?
I think the reason that is, and listen, I think every industry you could say that about.
Right.
There's good and bad people in
Right.
every industry. And I think it's just often it's the experience people have had with a salesperson at one point in their life. I can think of negative experiences I've had with salespeople, and I can also think of some of the most positive. And it's funny, the positive ones are harder to remember than the negative
That's
ones.
life.
Yeah. And so I think you have one bad experience with somebody who twists your arm into buying something you didn't really want to buy, and you regret it, and you feel stupid. And so now you just associate that sales. At least I think that's the experience a lot of people have had, and why sales gets that bad rap. But to me, my wife and I have joked, we'll go in, maybe it's whether it's buying furniture or buying a car, and we'll talk about how we're going to go in and tell them no. Like, we're going to tell them no. When a lot of times, like, we actually want to walk out of there with the right thing. It's just, it's got to work for us.
Yeah.
And so it's such a pleasant experience when you can go in and feel good about the decision you're making to buy something when you work with someone that's looking out for your best interests.
And good sales really is a win-win. Yeah. It's mutually beneficial. And unfortunately, to your point, I think a lot of people have gotten burned. They had a bad experience, and so that's just what they associate with it. So I appreciate talking about your philosophies and ideas around sales. There's a lot to sales. There's a lot of strategy. Yeah. We could have, your entire podcast is around sales and interviewing leaders and how they're salespeople. But one of the things that I've realized is important, and it's hard for some salespeople to track are KPIs and numbers, because there's this idea as well that what gets measured gets improved.
Yeah.
So that's another side of sales that I like to touch on, and your experience with that. And partly because a lot of people may feel negative about tracking all those numbers because they're in this position, they're talking to that person because they are a person. And as soon as you say, hey, that's one sales call I had today, it's just a check off the box. And I think they have a hard time associating a number to that person. They want to
Right.
keep it personal, if that makes sense. But I believe, you believe that what gets measured improves.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about why numbers are important and how you're able to connect that, integrate it with that personal
Yeah.
touch that sales could be.
Yeah. So I mean, first off, back to what you said, if you have nothing to measure, how do you know if you're improving or getting better? Like good KPIs, good numbers can help you identify pain points in your organization, where there's room for improvement, where you're winning, and it can help you identify, okay, this is an area we've got to work on. If I know, it costs this much money to get me this many prospects. Of this many prospects, these are how many we talk to or book a call or schedule a meeting with. Of this many that we actually book a meeting with, this many actually stick and hold the meeting, down to, hey, this many that actually meet with us actually convert. Like that's a lot of different numbers to track,
Yeah.
just in a flow like that. And if you see if you're tracking those numbers, you can see the percentages and know, okay, hey, we're getting a lot of people on calls with us, but we're not converting. So maybe there's something in our sales process that's not working. Or it could be, hey, maybe they're not coming into the call with the right expectation. Or if it's, hey, we're booking a lot of calls, but they're not sticking, maybe we don't have a system or process to remind them accurately or to help them remember and have the right expectations going into the call.
Yeah.
And so it really can help you. Having good KPIs can help you know what is it I need to work on. And sometimes that's confronting. Sometimes we don't want to know what that is. Or to your point, I have seen those that get so focused on the numbers that you lose sight of what it is you're really trying to do at the end of the day.
There's this coaching program that Paul and I, co-founder of Capitalist Pro, had joined, and the leader of that program put out this book, and he was talking about salespeople, and this company was struggling with retention, and they had 2 salespeople selling, like their numbers were through the roof, like leading the company, and but nobody was staying.
Yeah.
So I mean that kind of defeats the
Retention's
purpose
another
of sales.
KPI.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Come to find out, these guys were so good, they were selling a software product to people that didn't even own a computer. So you want to talk about bad taste, bad experience with salespeople? Guarantee those customers, those users that signed up, probably have a bad idea of what salespeople are, and it's unfortunate because that makes stuff that you and I do even more difficult. But in regards to numbers and to touch on something real quick, you took some people on our team through an exercise, which I thought was phenomenal. And it had to do with identifying what that most important number was. We didn't talk about all the KPIs.
Right.
We just honed in on what the most important number is. So share with our listener a little bit about that exercise and what it's intended to do.
Yeah. We have a framework we teach at the Everyday Leader called your most important number for your most important person. And so the idea is we want to combine the numbers and the people and connect those 2 ideas together. And so just as we talked about how sometimes you can get too focused on the numbers, I've seen the opposite where people are, so worried about the people that, I don't want to talk numbers because then I'm losing the focus on who I serve or who I take care of. And I think you want to have both. You want to have your why, and you want to have, you want to be able to track and have those numbers and have those KPIs. And so what we teach in this is first, the 4 parts of the framework are: 1, who is your most important person? And that might change based on the role you're in, right? If I'm the CEO of the company, the most important person I serve might be different than if I'm a sales rep, or if I'm a marketing person, or if I'm on customer service, right? So who's your most important person that you serve? And then what's your most important number? So the most important number might be revenue. It might be the number of contacts I make every day if I'm a salesperson. It might be, if I'm the receptionist, I think it talks about this in the book Traction, how many times I let the phone ring, right? So there's different numbers based on your role. The why, the third step of it is, okay, why are those 2 numbers important, and why are they connected? And do we understand the relationship between the number I'm tracking and the person I'm serving? And the last step is how? Like, how do we drive this number forward? How do we empower our team? How do I empower myself to focus on these two things and really drive those forward?
And when you took us through this exercise, what was really cool, what we identified, this was actually for our customer success.
Yeah.
And we, with Capitalist Pro, it's a software product. We help people raise capital on autopilot. We organize their systems, a lot of automation, a lot of great tools, resources that we provide for our users. And what we found is that certain users were upgrading to our top tier, which isn't cheap. And so that's what we were talking about with you. It's like, what was that? Like, what created that? What caused that? How do we get more of that? And so you took us through this exercise, and what we found was that the most important person was a certain user at our middle subscription level is what we came to. And then the most important number was how many times they attended an open office hour call we had.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool, taking our team through that exercise, because now that became one of our KPIs and goals and focuses. It's like, okay, what do we got to do to get more people on that call? Because that open office hour calls, if they're there, they're meeting our team, they're asking questions, it shows that they're engaged. Naturally, those people are going to want more.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we have a product to serve them when it comes to that time. And we're not forcing it upon them, but it was really cool going through that exercise. And to our listener, Drew and I, we talked before this. He actually has a super cool resource for you that goes through exactly this outline. So share with the listener a little bit about what it is, and then I'm happy to share with them how to get it.
Yeah, it's a 2-page resource that just really breaks down that framework, asks those questions so you can go through and evaluate that yourself. Obviously, I can help somebody do that, and if you're just looking for a little tool to help you with that, we've got a webpage you can go to, enter your info in, and we'll give you a link to download the PDF for free.
That's awesome. And then if you could text in KPI, keyword KPI, key performance indicator. And if you text that to 928-928-5985, you will get a link to that form as well to download. And look, you don't even need to schedule a call with Drew. You don't have to worry about him selling you on anything.
And if you want to be,
you're more than welcome to. Drew is truly here to provide value. And that's one of the reasons we've partnered with you and why we have people in our team coming to you, and you help our users as well. And so just your mindset, philosophy on sales, it's critical, especially for those of us that are raising capital for real estate. I mean, our minimum investment is $100,000. That's a pretty freaking big sell, getting somebody to part with $100,000. So you coming in and just sharing not only with my team, but we bring you on twice a month for all of our users to coach and just provide that complimentary training to help people work through their beliefs, their ideas of what sales is, so that they can be more effective and ultimately serve more people. Yeah.
Well, and one thing I'd like to just touch on before we move on, that was back to that example you gave of walking through with your team, what's my customer success, what's my most important number, and who's that serving? Although we identified one, hey, that's going to lead to more sales if we can get people on those calls. I think the other thing it helped identify too for you guys was it's not just about that. If they're on those calls, they're using the product, they're getting more service,
the retention's
going to go up. They're going to be happier. So it's not even about selling them something at the end of the day.
Yep.
It's what's the metric I'm tracking that serves this person the most.
Yeah.
And if that leads to more sales and that's what's truly best for the customer, great. And if what's truly best for the customer is just getting them involved and using some of the resources you have, that's awesome too.
Yeah, really good point. So Drew, as we start wrapping this up, I'd like you to share with me and our listener, what would you say is one of the most common limiting beliefs you encounter with those that you work with? And then what's the best way to overcome that?
Yeah, most common limiting belief, it's probably one of 2 or 3 things, just depending on the person. So one is that I can't do it. Like, I'm not a salesperson is something I think a lot of people view themselves as or think about themselves as. And so one, recognizing that, hey, it is okay to sell somebody. And sometimes it's just a little shift in the mindset. Maybe it's thinking of yourself, okay, instead of thinking of myself as maybe a salesperson, I'm going to think of myself as a leader. Or instead of thinking of myself as a salesperson, I'm going to think of myself as someone who's just here to serve and help, right? And that you can go into a sales conversation, and if you're looking now what's best for that person, you're not going to be that person you have this mental image around. So that's probably, I would say, probably the most common limiting belief I find, especially for those that don't come from a sales background. Maybe you've gotten into your business and now you're realizing how important sales is, and you don't see yourself as a salesperson.
And to our listeners that are like, yeah, no, I'm not a salesperson. I'm telling you, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me. And I've actually really grown to enjoy sales. And the mind hack I use is thinking of myself as a guide.
Yeah.
As a guide. Like, they are the hero. It's their journey. It's their story. How can I help them get from point A to point B? And I think that comes to me naturally, is wanting to serve and to guide people, being very eloquent with my words and being loud and boisterous. I think that's what a lot of people associate with salespeople. And that's why I always said, no, that's not me. Like, I don't want to be associated with that. But once I worked through my stuff and realized, like, no, like, you're a guide to help and serve these people. It was incredible to see how the conversations, the feeling, the energy, the vibe in those conversations flipped.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you do. You help people work through that. And that's, from my understanding, that's where you have to start there before you get into the technical and aspects of selling. Because there is strategy, there is technique, there are ways to frame things, word things, and that all that is great. But if somebody doesn't have a good belief system around sales, you can't even touch those points.
Yeah, I think the words obviously matter that you use, how you talk to people, the psychology behind it. Those are all important parts of the sales process. And at the same time, if you go into a conversation thinking they just think I'm going to try and screw them over, like, if that's your belief about what you're doing or the feelings you have, like, you're not going to have success. And I've often seen people that, because of their confidence or because of the deep why they have of how they're going to serve someone, that can overcome a lot of inefficiencies in your sales ability. And on the flip side, I've seen those that you can have all the words right, and if you don't believe it, like, people can feel that.
Yeah. Well, Drew, this is excellent conversation. There's so much more we can get into, but I just wanted to scratch the surface with this. So for our listeners, if they want to connect with you, learn more, see what you're all about, how can they get in touch with you?
Probably the best way, one of two things: either go to the everydayleader.co and you can connect and follow our podcast, book a call with us if you need sales help. We also have a community more geared for business owners that are looking for more support and a network to lean on. So that would be one place, or either follow our team or myself on Instagram, the Everyday Leader or the Everyday Sales Leader, or myself.
And just touching base on that document that Drew's provided to help you walk through what that most important number, what that most important person is, that's text KPI to 928-928-5985. KPI, text it to that number. You'll get a link to it. Fill it out. If you want to connect more with Drew, go to that website, or you'll have an option for them to connect more with you from that. So thanks again for joining us for another Capital Flow podcast. Again, if you're looking to raise $100,000 or more for real estate investments, this is the show for you. If you're looking for a more organized system and tool to help you raise capital more efficiently, more effectively, check out Capitalist Pro. We actually have a super cool tool to help you identify what stage in the marketing funnel you're lacking in the most, which you go through this tool, fill it out, and not only will it give you free resources on how to maximize that stage, but it will show you how Capitalist Pro can help you along that further. And so if you'd like to access that, simply type in Compass. We call this the conversion compass, keyword Compass, to 623-624-1190. So, Drew, really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute blast, and I'm sure we'll have more conversations.
Yeah, love to.